From WisPolitics in Madison, you're listening to Capital Chats.
Hello, everybody. This is Kate Morton with WisPolitics here with a Capital Chats podcast brought to you by Spectrum. Today I'm here in the office with my colleague Adam Kellenhofer to talk about an interview he did with Wisconsin Young Republicans Chair Kyle Schroeder. So, Adam, what did you guys talk about?
Hi, Kate. Yeah, so Kyle and I really just talked about how young Republicans in Wisconsin are viewing the presidential election, what some of their major issues are, and how they're feeling about Donald Trump. So let's just get right into the interview. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a WisPolitics Capital Chats podcast. Today, I am joined by Wisconsin Young Republicans Chair Kyle Schroeder to talk about kind of what young Republicans in Wisconsin are doing in regards to the presidential election. So welcome to the show, Kyle.
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate you having me on today.
Yeah, of course. It's a pleasure to have you on. First things first, how much enthusiasm is there among young Republicans to cast a ballot in the November election?
I think there's a ton of enthusiasm for young voters across the state of Wisconsin to cast a ballot for President Trump in November. I think it's a misconception that every young voter under the age of 40 or 35 is just automatically a liberal. There's a ton of support for conservatives across the board, but specifically for President Trump. We're seeing students as they come out of college just come out of the woodwork for President Trump and for conservatism as they really start to pay taxes, right? As they break out of the liberal agendas that liberal universities are pushing on them, they start to see the real world and they start to realize that, okay, the conservative values are what America's about and what my family values are what I want for my family, right? What the Republican Party is pushing, what Donald Trump stands for, ultimately. They're seeing what's happening at the border. They're seeing what's happening across the world in Israel and Ukraine and what President Biden just isn't doing about anything. And they're realizing that the 4 years that we had with Donald Trump was great. We had record low unemployment. We had our tax, record low, taxes were great. The economy was awesome. And now we're just in a position of weakness and our enemies are laughing at us. We're a laughing stock of the world right now because President Biden can't ride a bike. And it's silly to say, but it's the reality. And young voters and young people across this country, specifically here in Wisconsin, they're taking notice and they're changing their ways as they age into their upper 20s and lower 30s.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So in the primary, we saw, generally Republicans and, Democrats also had this issue. There were a lot of voters who did not vote, the mainstream ticket, which would be Donald Trump in your guys' case. Do you think, that the primary is obviously anyone eligible to vote in Wisconsin who's registered as a Republican? Do you think, is there that kind of separation in younger Republicans, or are they pretty well unified behind Trump?
I think at the end of the day, conservatives are going to unify behind the candidate. I think Republicans, they realize that we need to, because whether or not you supported Ron DeSantis or supported Nikki Haley, or supported another candidate, Vivek, what have you, you realize that at the end of the day, it's good versus evil. It's the Republican Party is family values, and it's what we need right now in this country, where students are afraid to leave their dorms. Just today, when the filming of this, just today, there are students afraid to leave UW-Madison and UW-Milwaukee's campuses today. And that's a direct weakness of Joe Biden's America today. And it's happening across this country. And that's the reality of what we live in today. And that's not what we want. That's not what young people who want to start a family in this country want their kids to live with.
Yeah, I guess it's actually a good time to point out. So we're recording this podcast on Monday, April 29th. So I'm assuming referring to the campus protests at UW-Madison.
Yes.
Okay. So, what kind of efforts are young Republicans in Wisconsin doing to kind of push younger voters out to cast ballots? Are you guys knocking on doors, or what's your get out the vote effort?
That's our main efforts, right? So we are, in comparison to a lot of organizations, we're a relatively new organization. We started in 2017, and at our conception, we are a grassroots organization. We in 2020 we knocked we had 3.2 million voter contacts across the state as young Republicans, and that was at about 3-4 years old of organization. And in 2022 we had 2 million voter contacts. We aim to far surpass that goal. So yes, knocking on doors, making phone calls, just bringing the message of conservatism directly to the voters across the state. We have grown as an organization as well. We have grown 5. We just charted a brand new chapter yesterday. So we have 5 brand new chapters across the state since October of last year. And we have grown 200 members since the beginning of this year. So we're growing, and we want to bring a young Republican chapter to every single corner of the state. And we're on track to do that by the convention in Milwaukee this summer. That's our goal, and we're on track to do that. So that is what we're doing, and we're doing it very well. We're the only grassroots young organization in this state that has the ability to bring that message. And we have the grassroots army, we have the manpower to do that, to bring that message directly to the voters, to young voters.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So I'm curious, like how important is the youth Republican vote to the whole Republican Party in Wisconsin? Because we are a battleground state, so it sounds like you guys have quite the effort going on. But how important is that youth vote?
It's huge. When you look at it, since 2016, the statewide elections, they've all come down to 10, 20,000 votes. If you can turn out younger votes here in the state of Wisconsin, if you can get that just a little bit more out of a demographic that doesn't traditionally vote for conservatives, that can completely flip for Donald Trump and for conservatives across the state. We have much tighter races for legislative seats across the state now with the new maps. And that's something, I know it's not necessarily a topic we're talking about, but that's something that it can directly correlate. And that's something that we can be effective with, that can be effective too. And that, that is something that our organization is going to be heavily involved with, and it's just trickle down politics that Ron Johnson likes to talk about a lot. If you're affecting the top of the ticket, the bottom of the ticket's going to be affected as well.
Yeah, no, but yeah, the top of the ticket definitely, as we've seen, kind of drives elections a lot of times, and the reverse is also true in some cases for sure. So what are some of the most pressing issues among young Republicans? Like what's front of mind for you guys?
That's can be a harder question to answer as a whole, right? Because there's a specific reason why an individual comes to the party. But in general, abortion has been on the forefront of everybody's mind, especially since Roe was overturned. And that is a driver for a lot of young people that are starting families, right? And that has uh, definitely weighed on people, and especially younger individuals. In the economy and is another one. When you're starting in your career and you have the unemployment rates and the economy just isn't as strong, and you're sitting here wondering when the market's going to crash, or it matters whether or not it's going to cost $55 to fill up your gas tank or $75 to fill up your gas tank, or what's going on in the Middle East is going to directly correlate to exactly what that price tag is going to be on filling up your gas tank. The economy is huge as well for people our age as they're trying to break into this economy. There's something that point that I saw. It's we're not quite at that point in the economy where it's crashing, but there's cracks here and there in the economy, right? If you went out, you're at Quick Trip or Menards and you're looking around and you're looking at windshields, there's cracks in people's windshields. It's not something that's not going to be able to not allow you to get to point A or point B on your vehicle. But it's something that 5, 10 years ago would cost only a couple $100 to fix. But nowadays it's going to cost you maybe $1,000, $2,000 to fix. But you need to save that money because what if your vehicle needs new tires or new brakes? Credit card debt's at an all-time high in this country, especially for young people, and student debt's at an all-time high. And that's at the forefront of people's minds, where this notion of pushing a 4-year college degree is on people, but a lot of high schools aren't talking about trades. And that's something that I think with this new movement of conservatives running for school boards and parents actually taking action in the schools, in public schools across the state, that's something that has now been being pushed in schools and showing that you don't need to go get a 4-year degree. You can find what you want to do, whether that's a trade school, whether that's just going right into the workforce. And the economy has been a huge factor in that as well. And then also the border issue, seeing in droves. Last one of the statistic that I just saw a couple days ago, I think 15 or 20,000 legal immigrants coming over the border every single day. That's unsustainable for not only our economy but our national security, and that's something that we need to get control of. And we are not going on the right track with Donald Trump as our president. And Joe Biden has completely lost control of the situation because he doesn't care. And that's where it truly comes down to him as our president, is he could care less. He just wants to be at his fancy dinners and in New York City and Washington, D.C., than actually dealing with the issue at the borders and in our communities.
All right, very interesting. I want to go back to the abortion issue a little bit because that was a big influencer in the 2022 elections, the gubernatorial elections. We saw that influence the Supreme Court election here.
Yes.
Some people have talked about where Wisconsinites should kind of stand on that abortion issue as far as restrictions, rape and incest restrictions, when like a week amount for restrictions. We currently have a 20-week ban and the 1849 law as well. Is there a consensus on where young Republican voters stand on that, or is it, all over the place?
It's going to be all over the place, right? I think when our attorney general just isn't enforcing the law, right? I think that's the biggest issue. I don't think it's so much where young Republicans view the issue. I think it's more that our attorney general in this state is refusing to enforce the law on the books. I think that if you have laws on the books, you should enforce them. But at the end of the day, I think young conservatives and young Republicans, they're coming to the party for different reasons and different issues. And we're the conservative movement and the Republican movement has always been a big tent party. If I always say you're welcome in the Republican Party, regardless of how big your MAGA hat is or how big your septum piercing is. As long as you believe in small government and you believe in lower taxes and you hold our core beliefs, you're welcome in our party. And I feel that that is the way that our party should move. And I believe that that's how Donald Trump views that we should move our party, regardless of what the mainstream media wants to push. And that's why he brought so many new people to the party in 2016. Why he brought so many 9 to 5 workers and union workers to the party, people who were working in coal mines in Pennsylvania, who were working on dairy farms in Wisconsin, because he talked their language. You can say what you want about the way that Donald Trump speaks, but he talks directly to the American people. And that's the way that the Republican Party needs to get back to. And that's how we started. It's not rhinos versus the Donald Trumps or what have you. It's the big tent party of the Republican Party. And that's the goal of the young Republicans, to bring everybody together.
All right. Fair enough. That's actually all I have time for today, but thank you very much for joining me on today's WisPolitics Capital Chats podcast. This is actually, for our listeners, going to be my last show as the WisPolitics Capital Chats podcast host. I am going to be leaving WisPolitics for another outlet after this. So, but yeah, it was awesome to have you on.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, Adam, thanks for sharing that interview with us. In the meantime, if our listeners want to hear any more about presidential politics leading up to the 2024 election, they can head to our website at wispolitics.com.
That's right, Kate. But for now, I'm Adam Kelnhofer.
I'm Kate Morton.
Thanks for tuning in to WisPolitics Capital Chats, brought to you by Spectrum.